A typical data capturer would go through maybe like 1,000 slips in a day or a week, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
This ended up going to 25,000 in a day.
Sure.
25,000 slips in a day.
Yeah.
Now imagine the type of savings and cost that you've saved just by implementing this. Initially, you'd have your upfront capital investment, but then that pays off over time, right? So that's definitely something that I was definitely very proud of.
Good day. Welcome to another podcast of Discover Talent at Vico.net. My name is Kagishorid, and today I am with Ziyad Jappie. How are you, sir?
Well, thanks. And yourself?
I'm good, thank you. A senior data scientist and tech lead.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Just a lot of fancy terms, I guess.
So let's unpack it, right? Because it always means something different, in the context of your work.
Yeah.
So if you had to briefly just describe for us the data science part of it, but I think you've as a tech lead, I presume that you are responsible for, you've got broader responsibilities.
Yeah.
Beyond that.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess starting with the data science part, that's more like the models, the algorithms, looking into data, finding problems with data. If there's no problems with data, then that's good. We find solutions to customers' pain points, I guess.
Yeah.
And we want to make this informative decisions. We want to make correct decisions. And obviously, we want to provide value to the client. That's the most important thing. Whether the client is internal or it's external clients, then whatever makes sense, right? In terms of the tech lead role, that's a bit more complex. Yeah. The science is easy. Yeah. People are difficult. So with tech lead, I manage a cross-functional team. Yeah. So what that means is it's not just data scientists.
Yeah.
So there's data engineers, there's software engineers. Yeah. Sometimes platform gets involved as well.
Yeah.
And I have to basically steer the ship in summary, right?
Yes.
And it's difficult as well. And one of the, I guess, biggest realizations I had while becoming tech lead was, in as much as I've done a lot of data science, I've done a lot of software engineering as well, a lot of data engineering. Getting into that position and then you have like a team behind you, it's realizing that you're not the smartest.
Yes.
You have to take a step back and be like, okay, this guy is actually much better than me in this particular set of skills. Yeah. Let him go forward and let him do that.
Yes.
So it was eye-opening as well. Yes. Yeah. I thought generally the smartest guy would be the tech lead.
Yeah.
But
and it humbles you, doesn't it?
Definitely. Definitely. Tenfold.
Yeah. And I like the angle that you are touching on, because indeed the technical side of it, the data science, more often than not in your world, not to stereotype it, but actually you can become a specialist working alone or not with too many. Yeah. But like you say, when you now progress and you start managing a multidisciplinary team, managing humans, right? That's a science on its own.
Definitely.
And that's not easy, because you're dealing not just with the technical know-how, but the emotions of it.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the one part that I think people overlook quite a lot, especially in a fast-paced delivery team.
Yeah.
People don't look at what people need in their daily life and how things are at home as well.
Yeah.
So people overlook and but you said you're going to deliver this by this time.
Yes.
So what I've noticed is having people trust you and you trusting them to, get their work done, but also have that ability and that flexibility when things are not well at home. You're not expecting that type of delivery at that pace constantly. So it has to be sustainable, and sometimes you'll have your ups and downs, but it's about knowing when that's going to happen and understanding why that's happening. So it's not just like people are very smart, right? It's the EQ behind it as well that you have to sort of adapt to and I guess learn.
Yeah, yeah. So at what point, and I'm fascinated by this, at what point did it become a revelation that, hang on, this team member is actually smarter than me? And how do you handle that? How do you bring the best out of you? You know, and literally the best out of them as well, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not a game of egos.
Yeah.
It's about the solution that has to be delivered.
Yeah. I appreciate your question, actually, because it happened this week. So it's fresh.
I promise we have not bagged your offices. It's all innocent.
Are you sure? No, but so what I like to do in these scenarios, right, is put forward the problem. And what happened was I had a certain direction that I thought was right. And a team member had a different direction. And what I said was, look, you have your way and I have my way. However, we need to get to a final solution. So we can't take both solutions going forward, right? So I said, okay, let's throw up pros and cons for each method. And let's have a discussion about it. Let's have it's not an argument, it's a debate. It's who can like prove his point the best. And if your point is better, I'll concede. If my point is better, you concede. And that's the type of relationship I've sort of established and nurtured in the team, is that even when we have differences, it's about a conversation. It always starts with a conversation before going into arguments or anything like that. So thankfully, I haven't had any arguments.
Yeah.
And I'm quite happy about that.
Yeah.
So it's all about coming together, discussing the problem, and if there's a blend of the solution, and more often than not, that's what happened actually at the end, is that there was a blend of the solution.
Okay.
So taking pieces of this part, and it actually made the solution much better than what we both thought it would be. So.
No, excellent. I'm happy that in a mature way, you were able to find a path through that.
Yeah.
When you look now as in your tech lead role, what prepared you for that? Because to be able to manage this multidisciplinary team and literally disciplines, how did you prepare for that? What were these career stepping stones and roles you had to do? Because I'm sure at some point you have to be able to keep up with their own expertise.
Definitely. So I think I didn't actually plan it. So it would have been very good if I did. But what actually happened was I started off as a full stack software developer for about 2 years or so.
Okay.
And that sort of gave me an idea of how to deal with, number one, data, how to deal with code, and how code flows from back end to front end, right? And how the UX works, how you engage with stakeholders in an agile way as well, right? Then later on in my career, I decided, look, I want to go into data science, and like no one tells me anything. I want this, right?
Yeah.
Because I enjoyed the math behind the data science. So then eventually I went into the data science, and it just clicked with me. It's just like, okay, one of my previous managers calls it phone boss, right?
Yeah.
So FYN, follow your nose.
Yes.
And that's generally what I had. It's like, when I looked at data, things made sense and I could present it to clients.
Okay.
So that sort of helped me in that regard. So it's client engagement and also the technical aspect of your data science. Eventually, when I landed up in this role, I thought that was the natural progression, right? Yeah. So I thought after you become a data scientist, or after you become like a senior in your technical field, the next step is technical, or the technical lead, right? And to my surprise, that actually wasn't the case in this company that I'm at.
Yes.
You can have your technical track and you can have your managerial track.
Yes.
And what I decided was, you know what, I don't want to just stay technical for now. Let's see what's out there. if I need to come back to technical and just stay on the technical track, I'll do that. But I think having the exposure to these different disciplines helped me manage sort of a cross-functional team, and also reading some books. So one of the very good resources that I've read was The Manager's Path. Okay. That was an excellent book, especially for someone that wants to become a tech lead.
Yes.
It takes you through how you manage people, how you get the best out of people, and how you actually accelerate people's career. So that was definitely a very, very good resource.
No, excellent. And I think for me, what I'm hearing is that your full stack beginnings, in a way, started becoming those important seeds, right?
Exactly.
Because full stack in its own way is multidisciplinary because you're having to do front end, back end, client environment, servers, web hosting and so forth. So you start getting that wheel, right?
Exactly, yeah.
To prepare you for later on, which is fantastic. But what I also picked up from you is that in order to excel as a specialist as well, you have to explore the other side in terms of the management general side. Doesn't mean you have to stay there forever.
Yeah.
Because in any event, the solutions you are building or you're trying to define or you put together, you're dealing most likely with individuals that are not in your world, that are on the other side, right? So these two languages, and let's call them management languages, the tech and the management languages, that we have to bridge the gap.
Exactly. And that's actually something that always didn't make me sleep well at night, right? Is that people that's not in the technical field are making all the decisions for the technical teams.
Yes.
Right. And it just didn't feel right. It's almost like they're telling you to do something when they don't know the difficulty of it.
Yeah.
And now, being in this position, I'm able to say, look here, we can do X, Y, Z because of this, and because of this, and because of that. And this is how long it will take, and the cost that it will take to do this. Yeah. So are you willing to spend that and invest that type of time? And then when you start talking money and financials, then the conversation changes.
It refocuses the mind all of a sudden.
That's the reality, right?
Yeah. No, that is so true, but equally quite serious, because when business planning happens and certain things are projected in the year, but there was a gap in interfacing with the technical teams that are going to build this.
Exactly.
That could be the difference between profit and loss.
Exactly. Like, you see that happen all the time. I can't remember the exact stat, but it was almost 80% of models that were built just never see the light of day, right? And if you had proper planning and design in place before with the technical team, this would have been mitigated from the start. And by doing just initial planning with technical teams, I think you can overcome a lot of these issues.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you're going to have your leeway for R&D and stuff. So, I mean, that's a different topic. But I mean, in general, include your technical teams,
Absolutely. And when you look back, what solutions have you been most proud of that I was involved in this and it's really gratifying? Are there any examples?
Yeah, so there's a few. I'll start with the first one that I worked on, right? This was a OCR platform. So generally, that was before the whole buzz of deep learning came in.
Yes.
Into industry, that is. But I worked on an OCR platform, and what that done was you'd give a sheet or a slip, and we'd automatically do a VAT reclaim for you. Okay. So instead of having a data capturer sit there and capture all the numbers and then submit to a VAT authority or whatever the case is, we used a OCR platform, and we developed all the tech behind that that basically automatically extracted that. Yeah. So what that meant for business, so for anyone that's watching that's in the financial aspect, a typical data capturer would go through maybe 1,000 slips in a day or a week, whatever the case is. Yeah. This ended up going to 25,000 in a day.
Sure.
25,000 slips in a day.
Yeah.
Now imagine the type of savings and cost that you've saved just by implementing this. Initially, you'd have your upfront capital investment, but then that pays off over time, right? So that's definitely something that I was definitely very proud of. Another thing that I was very, very proud of was we had a automatic data lake. So as customers sends us data, it flows through this whole, it's almost like an orchestra, right? So it was just like music flowing.
Yeah.
And the data just flowed through our system and eventually gave them their results. So we didn't have to touch anything. So this was for like a very large FMCG, actually globally, the largest in South Africa as well. And this enabled us to give them better results, better forecasts, better planning, better manufacturing. And the hope of that was to decrease the cost of living for South Africans. So that was the major player behind that. So instead of wasting resources in manufacturing and oversupplying or undersupplying, if you get that balance right, the large FMCG that's controlling this eventually sees, okay, I'm not actually spending this much to create this product. I can lower the cost and make it more accessible to people. So that was the main idea behind that.
No, excellent. All talking to efficiencies and effectiveness, right?
Definitely.
In terms of how
and
we
value.
deliver work and value at the end of the day. And when you, I mean, in your line of work, I would imagine that things change so fast, right? That you are continuously developing yourself. And if your name badges, as in skills name badges, right? I'm thinking of DevOps, I'm thinking of machine learning, I'm thinking of software development and so forth. In your view, and in particular now the hat of a tech lead as well, but overall in your experience, firstly, is that important? And secondly, is there a bias if you had to mentor, advise somebody and say, focus on these skills courses, they will actually do you a lot of good in your overall technical or even management development?
So I guess I would have a bit of a bias, right? When you want to start, just say you want to go into data engineering, software engineering, or data science, I'd definitely recommend getting or honing the skill of coding and doing it in the software development environment. That enables you to write better code and enables just say you're going into data engineering or data science. If you're going into data science, it enables that code to reach the light of day much quicker and much more cleaner. I've seen a lot of times data scientists very, very smart, but all the code lives in a notebook and you can't productionize that. So definitely start off introductions of coding. If you can, go through object-oriented coding. That will just open up a whole lot of other doors for you as well. And just go with that for at least a year or two, and then start looking at your data science, your engineering, your DevOps. That should be your backbone.
No, that's very useful. And I couldn't help but being intrigued by one of your research papers. I think you were doing your honors, right? Your honors research, which was about technology or software that detects open parking spaces.
Oh, yes.
Right?
That was the honors,
First, what happened to that research? Did it ever come into production or
no.
anything?
Well, it was versus IP, so I couldn't really take it into production unless I went through a whole lot of admin. But I just wanted to get out and
we
work.
need to go fetch this IP. I think a lot of people need it.
So the idea actually came from my supervisor initially. And what actually made me interested in it was every time I'd go to the airport, and I don't know if you've seen those lights on every bay. I was like, how much does this cost? For each one of these bays to have this. And I was just thinking, what if I just had a camera at the beginning, and then it doesn't have to be an expensive camera, right? It's just a simple camera and it overlooks all the bays. and you get everything for free, just like that. And then when you're coming into the parking, you'll see a heat map of where there's available parking, or you'd have it on your app, or whatever the case is, right?
Yeah.
But that's initially what made me interested in it.
Yeah.
And the fact that when I seen the initial plan, I was like, how do I even do this? Because I didn't know anything about machine learning at that point.
Correct.
And then I got into machine learning, and then I was like, oh, okay, I see. It's starting to make more sense.
No, excellent. No, there's a fantastic research paper. We need to speak to the university today. And where to from now? What are you most proud of? When you look back in your journey, what are you most proud of?
I think the desire to learn. So I'll put this in context a bit, because it sounds a bit like wishy-washy when I just say it like that. But there was a time when I just finished my master's and I was looking for a job. It was a bit difficult initially. It took about a couple of months for something to actually land. But when something did land, there was another offer alongside it.
Okay.
So I had two offers. One where I knew I'd learn a lot.
Yeah.
However, the pay was like 50% less.
Yes.
The other one, 50% more pay, but I wouldn't be learning from anyone.
Okay.
And I was like in this position, I was like, what do I do? And then I just thought back and I was like, you know what? You're young. Well, I was young. And I was like, where do you want to be? And if you take this position, this one that offers more, but you're not going to learn as much, a couple of years down the line, what do you have to show for it? People are going to surpass you, and where does that leave you? However, you sacrifice maybe 2-3 years and take this opportunity, but because I knew some of the people that were there, and I knew the CTO. He was also someone that I knew from Wits. And I was like, this seems like a better opportunity in terms of my growth. So it was more about, not about money. It was about how can I grow and how can I be future-proof in some sense. And that was the decision behind that. And then taking that, offer just helped me realize and enforced this in me that continuous learning it's a must. It's not a luxury.
Yes.
It's a must.
Yes.
And I think having that decisions and having that ingrained in me by my parents, by my family, by my friends, I think that's what I'm most proud of.
No, excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, Ziyad Jappie. I've enjoyed our conversation. If you're looking for free advice, it's coding in a software development environment, ideally. And it's all about continuous learning, even if it's at half price. But thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.